Welcome to the Nuclear Snail channel. So a lot of times in my videos, whenever I would paint something with those grunge paint effects that all of you like so much, I would just say, hey, I've already shown to you how to do this, just do that. I would just skim on that part or just mention it and skip it entirely. And it is true that I did show it on my channel. However, I felt like there is a time now to do just another full-depth video on how I do this. But here's a twist. Usually I use spray paints, which I'm not going to be using today. It's raining outside and I'm not going to be spraying inside. Here is the can I'm going to be working on. It used to be a coffee pad can, and it smells nice, like coffee. I don't drink it, but I like the smell. And I've already used some of this coarse sandpaper to prep this part. I've left this as a contrast. See how shiny and reflective that is? So I'm just gonna continue now where I left off before starting the video and also prep this surface. The reason for that is I believe the paint will stick better to it because of all the small scratches in here. And also when the paint does scratch off as the prop gets its wear on LARP or somewhere else, it will reveal that scratched up surface, which just looks, more distressed. Obviously, it has scratches on it. So it won't look that new and shiny even when the paint effect deteriorates, which it always will. No matter how good your technique, and mine is not, by the way, it will still always deteriorate. Let me zoom in a bit further. And by the way, like all of this stuff right here is just, I almost never use those paints. Okay, as I've said, usually I just use the spray paints for their convenience. And these have been sitting around in some of those, like I don't even know what, is it dry in there? Is it already all dried out or what's going on in there? So these are basically the never used paints that I'm gonna make use of today. And this is actually how it will sometimes go for, not, just for videos, but also for other stuff. Like there is a convention coming up and you just need to get something done, but you don't have the proper thing at hand. So that's the reason, one of the reasons I've chosen to go this route, just to show you that I'm experimenting a lot still as I go. Anyway, most of them are acrylic, and some other of them are, wall paints for, your wall inside of your home. Like for right on top of your wallpaper, I think. I don't really know. Anyway, they are pretty cheap. I got them a while ago. Alright, here we go. Prepped this now. So these pieces of sandpaper can chill out now. Might need them later, will actually need them later, as well as these pieces of polishing fleece, but not right now. So what do we do next? I want to start with a nice base layer, and that is gonna be black for me. So let's crack this can open. Let's zoom the camera in a bit more. There we go. Let's make sure that there is actually paint inside. And you see I'm wearing gloves. I want none of that stuff that's about to happen to be on my hands. Oh yes! Nice and flowy. And although it's not as bad as spray paint, I still have my window open and pretty good ventilation here. And I'm just gonna get my hands dirty, literally, without even using a brush or anything like that. I'm just gonna dip my fingers in gloves into it and just have a go. Of course, I could also use a sponge. I'll do that because it will just, hold more paint before it's all dry. And you see, I forgot the bottom of this. Forgot to sandpaper it. Whew, this smells quite a bit actually, so I'm gonna hold it far away from me. so I don't have like my nose right on top of it. And I'm adding more and more of the paint to the thing. Sorry, I held it in a way that you can't see it really well. What I'm not doing here is what you will see in a lot of tutorials and in a lot of, you know, official instructions and whatnot. Like, use a primer, using a primer. What's a primer? A primer is a paint layer, like the base paint layer that you put on your thing. And on top of that goes, well, another coat of paint. I'm gonna do the bottom here with the sandpaper real fast. Leaving this video pretty much uncut on purpose so that you can see my full process. So, I'm not using a primer, I'm not even using paint that is, like, I didn't even bother to find out, will this paint hold on metal? It should. It's acrylic, so I don't see why not. And yes, there are some specialty materials that will only take a certain kind of paint. For example, I have specialized glass paint for glass and stuff like that, but it's really of no consequences for most post-apocalyptic works. Just get acrylic in most cases, it will work on most surfaces. And if it doesn't, guess what? Perfection was never anything you should have aimed for if you're doing anything in this genre. So, this is pretty nice and black right now. It's, well, it looks dirty and oily black. I do want to dry it right now. Don't forget to close my small bucket of paint here. Bucket, I mean can, mini bucket, I guess. Anyway, to dry this, I'm gonna use just a normal small hair dryer. There we go. Alright, it's a couple of minutes later and it's still a bit tacky, but that's okay by me because I'm gonna add a bunch more coats to it anyway. So the next coat we're gonna add is green. Never opened this one before. Ooh, that's a nice tone. I like it. And we're gonna mix it nicely with the black. To not contaminate the green in here, I'm gonna use a piece of toilet paper because that's the next best thing that came into my hand. And with that, I'm gonna transfer that to the sponge, as well as use the toilet paper itself. And I'm just gonna dab it with the sponge. Dab, 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 there we go. Of course, you don't have to do it like with two hands at once like I'm doing right now. It's just fun. Right, I need some more of this. Get it on the sponge, get it all over my gloves. I'm really using like the whatever works technique here. And what I'm trying to do is to get kind of a chaotic look. Just adding this very irregular coat on top of this. Even some toilet paper remains sticking to the bottom here. Not too bothered by it, to be honest. Alright. Let's have another coat of this. Or sort of a coat would be a better word, I guess. Starts to look interesting. Now, let's close this. And let's have another round of drying. Another couple of minutes, and it's, well, still a bit tacky. It remains so for a while, but I can continue working on this now. Now this here is used for that paint that you, like you add this to the paint that you paint your walls with on the inside of your home. and it has this nice, it says lava gray, so it's gray like lava, I guess. And I'm gonna just dump some of it onto my sponge. There we go. Ooh, this is nice and flowy, I like it. I'm not sure if I'm doing it in the right order, but I think yes. And as you see, since the paint underneath it wasn't completely dry, it kind of comes through, which I think looks great. Oh yeah, that's it. Starting to look awesome. See, it's important to use multiple layers because that's what happens. Both when people try to paint something to last for a long time, they will use layers. Again, the primer thing I mentioned before, and then like the top coat, and maybe they at some time repaint it to look a different color for aesthetic reasons. Or when things deteriorate, layers build. So a layered look is what you're going for with this kind of stuff. And as you see, I'm using the sponge not just as the medium with which I apply the paint, like right now, but also I'll just squeeze it and have the paint all over my hands then, and apply it that way as well. I make sure to get in all the creases and stuff, but I don't make sure to make it all completely uniform, right? We're going for kind of a chaotic look here. Something that's kind of deteriorated looking. Alright. Starting to look good. Let me show it a bit closer up. Come on, camera, do your job. Focus. Focus here. Here is the action camera. Here it is. Bad camera. The trouble right now, I can't even touch the freaking focus thingy on the camera. So it focuses. Okay, here it is. Alright, here is a face. How do you like it? Focus on the face. Right, and here is the cam. Now, yeah, there we go. Thank you, camera. Alright, looks nice. So this is exactly what I want for my base layers. Those three were the base layers because we're gonna add more stuff on top of this. So now, you guessed it, before we continue, I'm gonna take the hairdryer one more time. Just wiping off some paint with the toilet paper off my hands, so the poor hairdryer doesn't get all of it. And here we go, another round. Now, this is about as long as we did on previous layers, but on this one I want it to be a lot drier. I'm not gonna like wait for the full 24 hours or whatever insanity you would usually do. But I still want to go another few rounds with the hairdryer here, because before we apply stencils and before we apply some other effects, I really want these layers to be dry. Otherwise what happens is the stencil just peels it all off, and the stencil is then kind of messed up and all that. So we'll see you in like 5 to 10 minutes. I'm just gonna be blowing with a blow dryer on the can. I of course could have just left it to sit there for a bit, but with a hairdryer it goes a lot faster. Also, I almost never use the heat gun, because the heat gun will heat it up to such an extent that the paint starts to break down. Usually not in a good way. Sometimes one can achieve some cool cracks effect with it, but a lot of times it will just destroy the paint in a bad way. So the simple small hairdryer really does the job for me. Right, here it is. And when I rub it, it's nice and hard, no longer tacky, no longer sticky. and you see it holds pretty well against me rubbing on it. So let's think what we want to do now. I have this corrosive stencil here, but I'm not sure about the colors yet. I'm gonna leave it this color combination, right? And then I'm gonna use the corrosive stencil, and it consists of 2 parts. By the way, don't worry about this part with the stencils. I do have a video about applying stencils on my channel. These are cut on a sticky vinyl foil with my cutting plotter, which will have its own episode. For now, the important thing to know is, as long as it's like one-way curve, so it's not like a sphere, it's a cylinder, this will bend around just fine. And I'm watching out to apply it in a way that it's opposite of this seam. I don't know if you can even see it on camera. There is a small seam here where the metal connects to metal, metal to metal. And I'm gonna do it on the exact opposite side, and I'm also gonna do it in a really straight fashion to the edge. So I want this edge to run parallel to this edge. And I think I'm pretty good. I'm not using a ruler or something. I have a pretty good eye, which tells me I screwed up just a bit. I sometimes use my finger to measure stuff like this. Oh, and by the way, my gloves have a hole in them now. I would usually swap them out, but right now I'm more preoccupied with showing you guys how I go about this whole thing here. So, this is pretty neat. It's sticking there, and in the middle of this goes the middle part. There we go. Nice. Come on, stick to it. It's not the first time I'm using this stencil, which is why it's kind of a... Oh, it also has stuff on it. You want to avoid stuff on it. On all stencils, you pretty much want as good a contact on the edge as possible. Now, usually, I would cover up these areas and these areas, basically everything around the stencil. Everything except the part I want to actually have paint on, and then I would go outside and spray. But since we're not spraying right now, I can save myself the trouble. So I'm gonna get a new glove first of all, so I'm not getting even more paint on my fingers. Oh god. Gonna have fun taking this off, although it's not too bad right now. Not yet. So I'm gonna get a new pair of gloves, and then I'm gonna come back and we continue with the stencil. Alright, I'm back with a fresh pair of gloves. By the way, the reason these paints play well with each other, although the one is acrylic, the other is God knows what else, they're all water-based, and this is the kind of paint I prefer. There is also like all sorts of other paints, but I usually just use water-based. That's the best for me. Alright, I gotta watch out because these stencils, they want to just peel off all the time, so I gotta hurry up a bit. This is just a regular sponge used for washing dishes usually. I just cut off a small chunk of it, like this. There we go. And no stencil, stay where you are. And I'm gonna use this red. Or am I? I might actually use the yellow. Think fast, think fast. I'm gonna go with the yellow. I think it will play nicely with the green. Let's see how it looks. Also never used this one in a bunch of years. Like, these paints just sit there doing nothing. So finally I have a use for them. And to be honest, for how much fun this is, I might do it quite a bit of times. On my own time as well, without you watching. Alright, here's our yellow. And I'll just dunk the sponge right in. So I want to keep this hand clean, at least as clean as I get it. Now, super important now, I will not be doing any sideways motions, right? every motion I do is just dab gently, not to flood the whole thing, and then raise the sponge again. So there we go. All of it goes from the top, every motion. This way, I ensure that I do not peel off the stencil in a way I wouldn't want, but rather I actually press it onto the thing. So I'm always going 90 degrees from above. This is super important, right? Ooh, I like the way it looks. I do like it. I dab it off here a couple of times because if I have too much stuff on my sponge at once, it might just flood under the edges of the stencil, and that is something I do not want. Again, ideally, you would have a stencil which is freshly sticky and doesn't raise on the edges. You see that I apply a thin coat and then I immediately dry it off, so that I can apply another coat on top of that. This way I prevent it running under the edges of the stencil. That's enough because the coat is fairly thin and I don't need it to be perfectly dry just yet. I just need it to be dry enough to accept another coat on top of itself. Again, I really watch out not to have too much paint at once on my sponge. And I also watch out not for something like this not to happen, where I accidentally go over the borders of the stencil and affect areas that I didn't intend to affect. The good thing about this peeling off stencil is that we can already take a look at what it looks like in contrast to each other, because through the stencil itself, through the foil, you can sometimes not see how it will actually look on the actual thing. And I'm doing some more firm, aggressive dabs because there is not a lot of paint left in my sponge right now. Dab, 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 dab. There we go. All right, I'll take a look. Let's take a look together. Yes, this looks awesome. I think I'm done with this. I'll dry it before I peel off the stencil. You can do it the other way around. But just in case there are some tiny pools of paint that would run off and make the contour bad, I prefer to dry it off first and then peel off the stencil. Kind of irrelevant here because the stencil already is peeling itself off all the time, so... Alright. Now before we do something else, let's not forget to close our paint bucket. I keep saying bucket, because usually paint comes in a bucket, but this is like a mini version of a bucket. Come on, bucket, close yourself. Yeah! There we go, gonna do this with this one as well. And the black. So they don't dry out. There we go. Okay, time to remove the stencil. Here's the outside. Let's put it aside. And carefully, remember the paint is still susceptible to rubbing and all that. I remove this. Let's look at the result. As soon as I've liberated my glove from the sticky thing, I like it. I like it quite a bit. The hand didn't turn out perfect, and there is some, you see there is some bleeding. Like a bit of it bleeds outside of where it should have been. And I will try to fix that with my scalpel by carefully rubbing it off in those specific spots. Gotta be real careful with this. It's not such a big problem on big shapes like this outside triangle or something. But here it kind of is. And what I'm trying to do is to remove just this top layer of paint. I'm using the back side of the scalpel now. And I rub very, very gently for this. Because otherwise, sorry, you guys can't see a lot. I try and hold it like this, but it's like really difficult to do this at the same time as showing it. I really want to get this right. So in small areas like this, it really does ruin the overall shape of the thing. For example, of this chemicals bottle right here from which the acid is dripping out in this picture. But all in all, hey, it's not too bad. I also really do like the color. And the fact aside that it does ruin the contour, the way these edges look kind of a bit alive, I do like that. Alright, we got a great color combination here, something I don't do a lot myself, but maybe should do more often. Hey, this looks nice. Alright, just fixing it up a bit here and there. I mean, it is also kind of fitting to the picture that the edges would be a bit wonky on a warning sign that warns you about, you know, the acid making your everything, whatever you drip it on, all turn up and wonky and dissolved. That's the word I'm looking for. Right, well, enough of that. Put away the scalpel. Here we go. Is it done? Nope. It still looks a bit too new now regarding the color palette. Like, yes, if I hold it to the camera like this, you can see that it's it has some small scale detail, but in terms of grunge, but I do lack some really nice darks here. All right, so we are gonna take our black again, and we're gonna put away this yellow sponge, and we're gonna grab this new piece of a sponge. And I'm not sure if we go with full-scale black or some diluted black. I will try some full-scale black first. Reopening it again. And I dab just a corner of it. And I will go here, right under the edge. Oh yeah. I do like how this looks. It's not perfect yet, but look how much depth this is adding to the whole thing. And it looks like there is like kind of a leak there or something. Like whatever nasty corrosive stuff is in there is leaking out. I do like that look. Of course, you could also use a a brush like a normal human, but I'm just too lazy. I don't own a brush, so I just continue on with this thing here, with the sponge piece. And turns out well enough, actually. So this has like those vertical lines there. I don't want those. So I turn the sponge around with the part that is not yet covered in paint. And what I'm gonna do instead, okay, so look at this in detail. Please, focus camera, please don't be a bleep. All right, face. Here's the thing, follow the thing. Yeah, follow the thing, camera. All right, anyway, I don't know if you can see it or not, sorry about that. So here are the sponge lines, right? And I'm dabbing on them to make it more of this uniform kind of a look, where it doesn't have a single direction, especially not horizontal in this case, because I want it to look like more like it's running down there, right? So horizontal is the last thing I can use here. So I'm actually also making some slight movements vertically. There we go. This is starting to look better. Let me zoom in a bit more. Yeah, not so much. There we go. And actually I'm gonna turn this thing upside down and get some of that black paint in that crease. Ooh, that's a lot of black paint oozing. That's more than I bargained for. For now I'm just focused on getting it into the crease all around. And now, as we see, there is a bit more of it than I wanted to have there in the first place, so I'm just dabbing this off. There we go. And I'm just doing straight dabs from the top right now. I don't want this to be just in the middle so presently, so I will make another one going down here. Yeah, this looks more convincing instead of, you know, just the one being right in the middle. I don't like that. Yes, there we go. Just dabbing in those streaks of corrosive black, whatever it is, stuff that's in there. I'm just gonna use my finger here. The reason I'm using my finger right now because I want something that looks more runny and less textured here. I'm gonna use a bit of this black paint right here and just spread it out like this. There we go, this is starting to look nice. Alright, maybe it's a bit much, right? Or maybe the bottom just lacks some. So I'm gonna apply some to the bottom as well. Going real fast here, doing a dab row around the bottom. Like this. Yeah, this is starting to look like something. And with the sponge that doesn't have a lot of paint left in it, I will also go over the rest of the thing. Yeah, something like this. All right. So far, so good. So this here looks like something thick and black and runny ran out of under there and then got peeled off partially, which is exactly what happened here. Just, you know, by the virtue of me doing it at an a lot accelerated pace. And now I'm just, you know, adding a bit more, just a bit of paint. And just adding a bit of grime to the whole thing. Also here on top, it just looks too sterile. Yeah, now this is better, right? This is just giving it the tiny bit of authenticity that is so important. Right. Okay, what else can we do with this now? I think it could benefit from some additional off color, weird color that you wouldn't expect. This something that is not in the palette. So I'm gonna close down my black. By the way, didn't need any more runny black here. This has done the job just fine. I'm gonna use some yellowish, orange-ish ink. This is not a paint at all, it's ink for like drawing and stuff. So for that I'm gonna get a sponge piece and I'm gonna get some of it onto the sponge. Like this ink stuff, it's really, really potent. And it gives this, well, not really rusty, but kind of rust-ish, brownish color. And I'm gonna add that to this brim, as well as the bottom brim. Round and round you go. And I want to dissipate it a bit. Dissipating it so it's not all in one place. It's still concentrated around that part, right? But it's no longer all in one place. And look how nice it is playing with this color of the base. Because we have warm tones here in this orangish ink stuff. And it also is, you know, one of those colors you'd expect on something corrosive-ish. Since we've established we're gonna have it like a acid container or something. So, yeah, look at that. I like it. It's exactly the kind of grime this needs. And not being shy to apply it just over the stencil as well. Not too much, not to destroy it. But nothing looks faker than, you know, I'm applying this special effect everywhere except the stencil. You know, always dirt up the stencil as well. Otherwise it just looks fake and lame. Alright, there we go. This is starting to look really, really nice. I love it. Didn't expect it to look this good, to be honest. I'm just, you know, throwing stuff at the, well, not at the wall, but at this can here, seeing what sticks, literally. And so far it's all sticking pretty good. Yeah, that's it. And you will see I have some hard borders here in this effect, as well as some really soft ones that are just fading into one another. And I'm doing this here to just, you know, dissipate it all a bit. I like this thing. This is starting to look like something. Uh-oh, we forgot the bottom. Man. Gonna have to reopen the black. Oh, popped out. Luckily not into my eye. There we go. And especially I want it in that crease. There we go. In the crease it goes. That might be a bit too much, but for now we'll just close the black back up. Take a bit of toilet paper and wipe it off. Again, I will not be able to really wipe it off from the creases, where I actually want to keep it mostly. And a bit more ink. Might be a bit too much. Again, really potent stuff. I don't know how well this ink holds up against water, just liquid. Oh, that's way too much. Ugh. This toilet paper dried up already. Let me grab. Well, here's some kitchen towel. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Right. Okay. Making sure all of my cans are closed. We're almost done with this. Almost. What I'm gonna do now is taking some of that sandpaper, but a finer grit. Like this is a lot finer grit. And I'm gonna go over some of the edges of this. To reveal a little bit of metal. And it really isn't playing well with it right now. I'm gonna take something of coarser grit, yeah, that works better. Because the paint is still not hard, it's kind of swampy. So it doesn't really want to get sanded off by the sandpaper. I'm gonna do this here as well. And I'm not doing too much, I don't want to remove all of it, right? Over the stencil as well, just a bit. Just a bit here, just a bit there. Just a bit here, just a bit there. Just a bit here, alright? Taking our rougher polishing fleece. You don't have to, I don't know if this is doing anything for me right now. Right. Okay, we could of course add another layer of dust, but in this case I don't think it really needs it. Not everything needs to be super dusty. So let me take the camera into my hands and show this thing to you from some better angles. Now, as I've mentioned, this will probably not hold forever, like this effect will wear off with time, but that's okay. You will reveal layers of paint that are further down. You will reveal the metal, like we already did here, for example. The most important thing here really visually is to have those layers and to have both the hard spots or harder spots as well as the softer ones for a more organic look, and to have multiple different hues, because those tell a bit more of a interesting story. Alright folks, I hope you liked this episode, and if so, let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Also check out the links in the video description. Support me on Patreon if you aren't doing so yet and do like my channel, and join the Nuclear Snail community group on Facebook. Both a Patreon and the group are linked in the description of the video. Have fun crafting. Bye!